Tuesday, May 7th at 7 p.m. Let's pay respects to our flag. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
C.J. Gazdor.
Here.
Maureen Helmuth.
Yes.
John Knoll.
Here.
Leslie Pilak. Here. And Tom Schultz.
Here.
Absent are Justin Ballard and Scott Flynn tonight.
Did we hear from Scott today?
Yes, we did.
I'll make a motion to excuse Justin Ballard and Scott Flynn from the planning commission meeting on May 7th.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the agenda for May 7th, 2024.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda for our May 7, 2024 meeting.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None, passes. Approve the minutes for March 9th. Approve the minutes, the March 19th, 2024.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for March 19th, 2024.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, public hearing. What we'll do is we'll extend to the public if they, anybody like to stand up and talk in regards to 20 Church Street. The window pursuant to the ordinance section 4.1.13. I'll need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Support.
It's a roll call.
Roll
vote.
call, thank you.
Pilak.
Yes.
Helmuth.
Yes.
Schultz.
Yes.
Gazdor.
Yes.
Knoll.
Yes. Okay, is there anybody from the public?
We're here. Would you like me to just stand or go to the podium?
You're the applicant, so you'll be in, or you can speak later when it comes
This is
up.
mainly
okay.
for the public to
Public,
just discuss things. If there's no member from the public, then I look for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing at 7:04.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's go down to call the public. Is there anybody in the public? Do we have any public,
Didn't get any correspondence?
no correspondence? Okay. Let's start our new business. PC 24-05, sign permit applicant for 51 South Washington, Suite A, Oxford, Michigan, partial ID number PO 0427202035, zoning C1 Core Commercial District. Applicant is the Good Egg Breakfast Cafe. Owner, Familia Properties LLC. Mark,
Okay.
Mario, do you want to lead off with this?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're here to consider the proposal of for one internally illuminated projecting wall sign at the location currently cited. So this proposed sign is a box sign. It's proposed to be 23 square feet in area. The zoning ordinance requires that projecting wall signs shall have a maximum surface display area of 16 square feet. So given this is 23, the proposed sign must be reduced in size to comply with our maximum sign area. They're here tonight because internally illuminated signs within the C1 Core District do require internal review by the Planning Commission. And this sign is comprised of, based on the graphics provided, it would appear that the sign is going to be comprised of white or clear letters on a dark background field. So if this sign face or this background field is fully opaque, such as an aluminum face with routed letters, then that would allow for minimal transmission of any light. If for some reason the background field is some type of acrylic or something that allows for light transmission, then there's potential for the entire sign area to be provide light and illumination and potential to cause glare and distraction to drivers. So we just ask that the applicant indicate the type of material used for the sign face, whether it's a fully opaque metal such as aluminum, or whether it be something that's a little bit more, allows for more illumination. If it is the metal option, where only the text is actually going to be lit, then we do feel that that style is in keeping with what's recently approved in the village. It will have very minimal impact on passing drivers and their visibility. However, just to be on the safe side, we would ensure that that illumination is not excessive, we recommend a dimmer be installed to control the sign's luminance level. So we recommend the Planning Commission, if they find that it meets the standards that we've recently encountered, to allow for the sign, provided the background field be a opaque metal, and provided that the applicant installs a photometric sensor with an automatic dimmer control module that controls the light levels.
There's no one from the applicant.
Is there anybody from the applicant? No. So, board, planning commissioners, do you have any questions? Leslie?
So let me make sure that I understand your conclusions about this application as you understand it. In one situation, with regard to the actual size of the sign, it doesn't meet our current standards and should be reduced from 23 square feet to 16 square feet. That's one thing you mentioned.
Correct.
Another significant thing you are talking about is the opacity of the sign, because that's going to have quite an impact on its visual appearance. So even if it was reduced in size, you feel like it's important for us to know what is the material, because even if it meets the size requirements, it may be too luminous or more luminous than is aesthetically preferable or than we would want to.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Because it's similar to the idea of if for some reason the background field was white and with dark letters, which we have seen in the past, we've asked them to invert that transit. And it's worked out, I think it's worked out very well. So then the only issue here would be just to have that information. Chances are it's metal, but just to be on the safe side, it'd be best to understand that black field is in fact a completely opaque metal field.
I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks. Mario, the stores above, or the space above, I should say, who's the owner of that? Or maybe Joe, do you know that?
The owner of the property is owned by a management company. They own the whole building, all the units.
Okay, so that lease sign that's there is for the upper?
Yeah, there's medical offices up there and things like that.
So, so once a tenant goes in there, are they allowed to have?
At one time, there was a Remax, 2018 perhaps, a Remax sign office that was up there that was granted permission, I think, to have an upper sign, because we do allow upper signage for upper second floor businesses.
Can they have a protruding sign? I mean, can they basically stack their sign on, right above the good egg?
They could possibly do that, or I think perhaps that one was on this wall that's facing us. I think it's where the Remax sign was in 2018.
I think it was. I'm just wondering if they have, if they're allowed to have a similar sign. Where I'm going with that is, would that really prevent, that new owner from having, I mean, we're gonna have signs stacked on signs.
Yeah, and to answer part of your question, and part of the thing describes it, those posts that are out there now was from the previous store or diner that was there. But is there potential for another, now that would be smaller than what's there now, because that's 23 square, you'd go down 16 square feet, but still. Is there potential for another projecting sign to be above this? I suppose.
Okay.
They have to be there's a minimum from the ground has to be off. I don't think we have a maximum height for it. That's not Mario would speak to that.
Well, we do have a minimum height in terms of allowing
8
for
foot.
clearance for pedestrians under
Yeah,
the
8 foot.
sign of 8 foot. However, when it does come to multi-tenant signs, the ordinance does speak to it. It says, in the case of multiple upper floor businesses sharing a single entryway, only one projecting sign may be
There you go.
permitted. However, the projecting sign may be designed in such a way as to give each business separate advertising space.
There you go.
So typically what happens in these situations is that the landlord's lease with the tenant, they can negotiate what kind of signage they can or can't have in terms of, and that typically affects their lease rate. So it's a matter of whether how the property owner wishes to divvy up that sign allocation. If they want to come back and provide, and they get enough money from the upper floor tenant, say, that warrants doing a multi-tenant sign on that one blade, then they could, again, come back and then do a different orientation. The chances are what it is the property owner is giving that entire right to the ground floor tenant at the moment, and there'd be some other location, so the alternative for the upper floor tenants. Because typically upper floor tenants actually don't get, they don't get a sign above on the top, above the second floor. They get, they only get signage in the door entry, typically. You don't really give them any kind of
We
additional.
do have
sign.
one on,
Do we?
on M24 there. I think it's isn't it Doctor or
The Crittenden building?
No. So on the west side.
Oh, on the north side of the park there?
Yeah.
There's a Beaumont upstairs.
Right.
And
Parkside Medical
Parkside Medical.
has a sign.
Are they shared on one?
Mark.
I can't recall.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
But that's not a projecting sign either.
Correct,
That's a wall
correct.
sign.
Yeah,
That
correct.
would be different, I think, too.
Yeah.
And we do have our standards for special use approval for signs, so it could be that they came in and approved for, required additional signage for that aspect. But what I was referring to is what our design standards are striving for, trying to be historic and traditional.
Right.
In that the upper tenants typically are either office or residential, don't necessarily desire extensive amount of signage.
Okay.
But they do have a mechanism to get that additional signage if they so choose.
Okay. And just from a visual perspective, is that sign, the top part of the sign, is that where it should be? I mean, it looks pretty high, I mean, because they're going to the window of the second floor.
So it is a little high. As I mentioned, the minimum requirement between the grade and the bottom of the sign is supposed to be 8 feet. The ordinance does suggest that the sign not project from the second floor. So I thought if the ceilings in the ground floor tenants were standard ceilings or slightly higher, the sign might be construed. When I looked at it, it felt like it was like a 60-40 between first floor and second floor.
Right.
So the ability, but I also looked at the previous sign, and the previous sign actually had a third arm that went above, and went even higher. Joe, actually, if you could turn on the TV, I might be able to get at that image. I was too slow.
Up
Up and running. But, so it's a good point, Con, in terms of how does the sign relate to the downtown standards in the past, and how would it relate in the future? Let's see. That was a previous sign,
Oh, I see.
and it was a little bit higher, and it had 3 arms. I'm just trying to back up to it there.
They started
It's
right
a
over the right over
vertical
the
sign, it's not.
The audience is kind of set right over the start.
So if you go into the driveway a little bit to the right, you can get a view of it too. Yep.
There you go.
So that one's probably more closer to 16 foot like we allowed.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, I see 3 arms too, yeah.
that's 2. So the bottom, this point right here is about this point of the window, whereas this top point right here is more like in the second sash. That's
So
right
has
there.
the bottom arm been taken off?
It's like a,
I think this top arm has been taken off. They're using the 2 existing.
yeah.
If you go,
But I,
Yeah, I thought it was the middle one.
I,
I think it's the middle one.
because you have
Yeah.
one above the lintel right here, and then one below it, and then this one. So you one, it's kind of hard to tell. Oh, you're right.
Yeah, compared to
Yeah,
the window.
probably, yep. One above the window, and yep.
but I think another issue is that the proposed sign is incompatible with the window design and the other rectangular signs. This sign, it is taller, that's true, but because it's vertical, it doesn't look incompatible. It looks kind of historic and a little bit more appropriate visually to me. But this sign just looks wrong. It just seems like it needs to either be lowered, you know, to be in line with the other first floor signs that run, you know, along the parking lot area. Because when you see the whole building, it looks awkward and it just catches my attention in a negative way.
Is there a requirement for how far off the building the sign can be?
Yes, 5 feet.
Complies with that.
It does comply with that standard. The maximum 6 inches and then,
Yeah, it's 58 wide sign.
yeah, 16 square foot.
But by the time that
And they can't get more than 5 foot away from the building.
One of the
And
other
I believe
criteria
there-
we've used when we've looked at signage in the village is, does it go along with the village atmosphere? Does this sign, in the board's opinion, go along with the village atmosphere?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, if it wasn't internally illuminated, it wouldn't be in front of you, is that correct, Mario?
That's correct.
They couldn't-
Except for, well, because then
Size.
he would have been, the applicant would have been made aware that they just have to reduce the size.
But they
And
could
then if
put
they
a-
reduce the
they could-
size, then it would have been approved.
They could have put a 16-inch or
16 square
16
foot.
square foot sign up there, projecting sign, and without any permit. Well,
Right.
with a permit, but no special use. It's in
Right.
front of you. due to
A standard
illumination.
sign permit, not a.
So it's not there for design purposes. Now, the attorney,
No, I
you
understand
guys
that.
weighed in on the design, but yes, junk letters and stuff.
Right.
That's the thing, I'm trying to recall other projecting signs we have. We don't have too many, right? I mean, I know this is.
Rush Cameras has a nice one.
That's true.
The new.
It's
Yeah, just recently approved 2 months ago.
It's not internally illuminated though.
Is it? Oh, no.
Yeah,
It's not, is it? Right.
We didn't go to special
Right,
measures.
it's,
We
Oh,
just-
you went over, you're in a different district.
yeah, it's an Highland district.
They should, what would you guys think if they made the sign look like an egg? Like part of their brand?
That's, I wish they were here. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think they could make this,
Should have been.
if they left the breakfast cafe words on and just had the egg,
Yeah,
I think they'd be okay, because it would cut their square footage down.
and that would look cool. you know.
Yeah.
It would.
Well, yeah, I think, I want to make comments about appearance because I think this is an opportunity to say it, even if it isn't specifically part of our purview to talk about design, except we're within the ordinance.
Well, I mean, the intent of the design review is for the internal illumination, because typically internally illuminated signs were not historic.
Yeah,
They were all externally illuminated, and that's why if the sign was externally illuminated, it would be permitted by right. Because we do have some other tenants that have gone to that point, down the street right over here on the other side, when we were looking at some of these other signs. These right here are externally illuminated wall signs. They're not projecting, but, so
I
those
think
are more
projecting
historic.
signs give you the option of really having a cool sign.
Right,
Um,
and once again, to be, in terms of the historic character, the style, a lot of them are, like the one I found out here is,
Doesn't Dr. Becker have one?
Yeah, Walton Becker Eye Care.
Isn't that
with
a,
the
That's
with the
not
eyeglasses.
internally, it's projected, but not internally illuminated, I believe.
like this is,
Mm.
it's projecting, hanging, historic wall
I don't
signs.
know if they use that one in front of the podium.
Well, yeah, tell me what you mind. So, so to answer your question, I do believe you do have the purview as a planning commission. By being internally illuminated, it opens them up to the
I see,
scrutiny for design.
okay.
And the intent has always been to try and make sure that any of these signs, reasoning for that is to try and be compatible with the historic character. And so that's something that, we kind of didn't necessarily address several years ago, but I have been trying to bring that up recently because for that, if we are intending to make it historic, then that's what we should talk about. But if not, then it should be permitted by right and they'd be allowed to do it anyway. And then and if that's the way you'd like to see these happen, then, then they wouldn't have to be coming in front of you and they could be just approved.
Other than the size though, right?
Other than the sign, but that can be done administratively.
Yeah,
There are many,
yeah.
many sign permits that come in that don't meet the size of their location, and we review them administratively. And they correct, the contractor corrects it, and then they get their permit.
Do we know if they already took that third post off the building?
I do believe so, because in the application, it looks like it's missing on,
I've drawn on. I actually drew a post.
yeah, so that's the picture,
There's,
Okay.
there's just the,
so it's just the two.
and you can see where it is on the building, that's the top and the bottom of this.
I don't really have a problem with the internally illuminated lights, like signs. I don't necessarily think that I have that big of a problem with the way that they're presenting it here. I don't think that it looks significantly different than a lot of the other signs that I've gone through. The only difference is that it's sticking out. I don't know, I just don't, I kind of feel like we're splitting hairs a little bit here as far as the appearance goes.
I think we should hold her to the square footage, that's my opinion.
So that has to, they're not asking for a variance, they're asking for a sign and a square footage. We can't prove it above the amount of square footage. Why they didn't notice that or and put it in that way?
Why can't we? And I'm not saying you want to.
How will you approve a sign that violates the ordinance?
Doesn't it by right as being a special land use violate the
No,
ordinance?
special land use by internal illumination only.
Or a special land use by being too big? I don't know what the air quotes do to make a difference.
Okay, so technically, this isn't a special land use sign, because those are the ones that do request larger area, larger, different types of illumination. This is just merely sign design review, because they have internal illumination in the C1 core. So, it's just.
Under
it's
special
approving-
land use, right?
No, just as a sign design review. It's just an application permit. Because special land use runs with the land, and grants them rights and that sort of thing. This is just a design review of the style for applicability in the C1 core district.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So back to Mario's point about the opacity of it and darkness of it, and I know the old Farm Bureau or Farm, that sign came in front of you and you guys asked it to be reversed, and they were here and they said absolutely, they kind of like that better, they reversed it. I would assume that this is a one Lexan piece or plastic up there, and that black is gonna block most of the light, but it's probably gonna still allow some. To have that be one, when you said about a metal, with only then the yellow or white being a different material that would allow light to come through, I don't think is the case. It's probably gonna be one piece painted in that way.
You would know, John.
Yeah, and I've done business in Davidson for 15 years, and
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. Two different metal pieces covered that, I don't see that happening. It's gonna be one piece of, let's say, and because it's dark, it's gonna block most of the light, like you guys said.
Right.
Yeah, well, and also our normal condition of having a photometric sensor and a dimmer could be effective, has been found as an effective way. And, so there's that as well. I just wasn't sure in terms of the sign itself, because we've had like the law sign at the corner. I thought his was metal, and they did a cutout, but you're right, chances are something like this is more of a,
Yeah.
and it's still black, so it's still,
It does what you want,
it does it, but it's,
reduce enough.
it's like probably 80% or 90% opacity versus 100% when it's metal.
The last bit, did you read Kelly's letter that it was like a special, she said that this was a special case.
I think that's related to a different item. Oh.
Sorry, that's 22 North Washington.
Yeah, and I apologize, Mr. Chair. One gentleman was here specifically to speak to public comment. We have public comment later too, right? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, you can do it then.
Do it now?
No.
No.
I was thinking that's what he was here specifically for a public comment. And that level of debate.
Sign the conversation going.
Well, planning commission, we have a topic before us. We have a size issue. we have a material issue that's been called out, and we have the request that we usually put on our signs as a dimmer. How do you want to proceed?
I'd like to make a motion to deny the sign permit application for 51 South Washington, as it doesn't meet our size requirements.
Would you go as far as to make a recommendation for design?
No. Let the applicant come to a meeting and we can talk about it.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion on the floor to deny the sign. We have a second. Do we need to take a roll call on this? Roll call, please.
Yep. Yes. Pilot?
No.
Schultz?
Yes.
Elmo?
Yes.
Osdorf?
Yeah.
And Noel?
Yes. Motion carries.
We'll inform the applicant of the board's motion as well as some of the comments and requests, and that it'd be in the best interest to show up.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
I do want to mention that the dimmer wasn't mentioned in the motion, and I think that should also be addressed.
Well, her reason for denial was because it doesn't meet the ordinance, and I think
Correct.
that's clear.
Yeah, that's,
So when they come back, we'll make sure that the dimmers,
Yeah.
Mario's been very kind to
Yeah,
us,
and-
and he's right.
then I would, in that circumstance, I would vote yes. I don't know if you could make a change.
It's over.
Just for
It's done, it's done.
information. So my fellow commissioners don't think I'm completely
love
bonkers.
I thought you fell asleep. Just whatever.
Let's move on to new business item B, PC 2406, special land use for a drive-through window, pre-order pickup for 20 Church Street, Oxford, Michigan, parcel ID P004224555-004, zoning I-1 Industrial District.
Mr. Chair, the applicants and their business representatives are here. Just
Thank you very much. Would we like to do Mario first or the applicants first?
your choice.
Applicants?
Mario.
Good evening.
Mario, you're up.
Just for the viewing public, I just summarize the fact that this application is for 20 Church Street, which is located on the south side of Church Street, east of North Washington Street. The site itself is zoned I-1 industrial. And the site was recently approved by the Planning Commission and has been redeveloped for an adult use marijuana retailer. It's doing business as Rush Cannabis. The applicant is proposing to establish a drive-through window on the south side of the building, and within the I-1 district, this does require special land use approval. For special land use, we do require, one, looking at the general standards for special land use approval. We'll also be looking at the specific standards for a drive-through window, and then any site plan issues. Generally speaking, the site itself, as I mentioned, is zoned I-1 to the east and west. It's zoned and used as commercial on the west. On the east, it's zoned and used as industrial. To the north, it's zoned commercial, but it is the Oxford Fire Department fire station, excuse me. And to the south, while zoned R3, that's on the opposite side, property used for multifamily is on the opposite side of the Pollyant Trail Bridge. So generally speaking, the commercial nature of the other uses, the expansion of the commercial, and the expansion of commercial activity on the site by installation of the window, it would actually appear to be compatible with the adjacent uses when it is operating efficiently. When you look, coming to the other standards, there's 8 other criteria. You look at special land use. The application itself generally meets all those standards. However, I would point out in my review letter, paragraph 5, where we discuss the proposed use shall be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained compatible with those surrounding land uses. Now, as proposed, the drive-through window, as I mentioned, will be on the south side of the building. Vehicles would enter on the existing drive-through located on the west side of the property, drive southbound to the on the west side of the building, and then turn eastbound at the very southwest corner of the building to line up the driver's side entry with the proposed window on that southeast corner of the building. So the configuration, due to the narrow existing width of the drive-through access, of the access drive on the west, results in the exit drive doesn't have a what's called a escape lane or vehicle turnout until the very end of the drive configuration. So as a result, customers visiting the site, if they are within that drive, will have to wait their turn basically if they wanted to do an exit. That's one issue. The other issue is more important when it comes to the operation and its impact on the potential impact on the use and the adjacent properties is the applicant is proposing that this will be a order and pickup at the window location. There won't be a menu board where a customer would order ahead and then pick up their items in the lane. They would have interactions with a customer service representative in the window, and then they would receive their product and then leave. So the issue with that is, there's the potential for longer wait times for customers. People have to make a decision on the products that are being chosen. They might, not have the product they're looking for, and then they have to make another decision, and that just adds to the time frame in which a customer is be sitting at the window. So therefore, the time frame gets added on to the customers waiting in line, and then therefore you have increased stacking. Now, this configuration will allow 10 vehicles apart to stack on the site. However, there is that potential that because these uses we found typically have their most busiest times on Fridays and Saturday nights. So it's not a product that's built, that's purchased evenly throughout a 7-day week. It's loaded into a particular days of the week. So as a result, there's a potential for on those times, only those times, that it could be increased stacking. Basically, in the end, that increased stacking could potentially bleed off into the Church Street right away and could negatively impact adjacent property, including potentially the Oxford Fire Department. Another issue, just similar issue, but another standard of the special land use is when you look at special land use, you are supposed to make sure that the special land use will not negatively impact and will actually minimize the impact of traffic generated on the proposed use. Everything I've just described about the proposed configuration, how it's operated, if it operates that way, could negatively impact it. For example, but one way it could be addressed is if the applicant indicated this was only going to be for pickups of call ahead or order online or through an app, whatever 21st century technology we have the ability to have ahead of time where a customer could pick things up and exit the lane quickly. That would cut down on drive time, cut down on the potential for traffic. But in the end, we do believe that it's important to consider the traffic impacts when you're looking at special land use. Looking at specific standards for drive-through, it's actually basically the same. Specifically, the ordinance does ask that the applicant either provide a bypass lane or the planning commission look at the proposed configuration and make the determination that what's proposed is appropriate. So as mentioned, their proposal is to have a bypass lane near the end. So you would have to make the determination that configuration is appropriate. And as I mentioned, they're proposing right now there would be no menu boards. You just have to confirm with the applicant that that's the case. That's part of our specific requirement for drive-through. And then finally, looking at the site plan questions as relates to this. It's once again, because it's an existing site, has been redeveloped. There's minimal changes to the site itself. The only thing would be the proposed changes, which is they are proposing a raised curb island at the south end of the property near the window location, so that way they could define vehicles at the window being serviced and the potential for vehicles to bypass them. In theory, that does seem very appropriate. It's good for site circulation. It would be appropriate. However, I would note that we had recent communication with the village engineer They were concerned that the traffic lane, curve radiuses and the distances, based on the diagram submitted, they weren't sure if these configurations were appropriate size and radii. So the engineer recommended that the applicant provide basically turning movement diagrams with radii and wheel paths that we've been receiving with normal site plans to ensure that these proposed configuration, a vehicle can actually make these movements. And that's something that's normal for a site plan. So in the end, if the planning commission does make the determination that this proposed use meets our standards for special land use approval, we would recommend, that the applicant provide a detailed drive-through operation plan which attempts to minimize the customer wait time as much as feasible. And that may include, but it's not limited to, potentially changing the window to a pickup-only window. 2, we recommend that any approval that you would grant would be conditioned on the applicant being required to suspend the use of the drive-through window and submit a revised site plan to address vehicle stacking if it's determined that the vehicle stacking becomes so egregious that it's negatively impacting the Church Street traffic. And we believe the only ones that would be effectively able to make that determination would be the Oxford Police Department. If they're constantly coming out every Saturday, Friday and Saturday because there's vehicles stacked in Church Street, if the Oxford Police Department feels that's necessary to be a different solution, then we feel the applicant's special use should be suspended so they can come up with a different alternative to address it. And then we would recommend any approval be contingent on the applicant addressing the requirements of the village engineer and the village fire department. So
Do you
I
have
will,
this plan available to go on the screen?
I just,
Good idea.
Maybe I'll be able to
I
read
wanted to
that.
save you from my scribbled notes that I was reading from. So I will,
Mr. Chair, later this afternoon we received, I think Terry shared with you from our engineer as well. And I discussed those concerns with him. He tried to encompass that into his email, if you like, I can speak to them.
You go ahead, I was gonna speak to him, but go right ahead.
Okay, so again, initially he was concerned that if they come around the building and the drive-through, as you turn left around the corner, the curb is bumped out there. And he was concerned, could someone come around that bump out and still make it back in along the building because of the sharpness of that turn going around? He thought, why couldn't that curb come straight up and be more of a 90 or rounded curve there? He wasn't sure why the bump out was there. That's currently configured that way, I believe, though. So that was the one concern. The other one is, and you don't see it on this plan, but you see where the little island is there, delineating the drive-through pickup window area. Right there, that island. Well, just left of that island, there is a catch drain structure. You see the top part of the island right there, right? So just left of that top part of that island, adjacent to the left of it, there was the south, there was a drain structure. And he was concerned that perhaps, the lid is fine, it's not touching the lid, but underneath that lid, there's a 4-foot wide drain structure typically. And he was concerned that curbing, that north curb of the island may be over top of the drain structure itself. And it might, suggest if that curb goes in, maybe they reduce or pull it back south a couple feet just to ensure that it's not over top of the drain structure. I don't know if it was a minimum length of that drain or that curbing that was required and that it wasn't, or it was just drawn in that fashion. But those were his 2 concerns, is making that corner around and making sure that curb for that lane wasn't over top of the drain structure. It's not, if you look at the drain structure sheet, soil drainage sheet, it's not over the lid, of course. The lid, there's more than the lid.
So Joe, the turn of it, to be able to make the turn with that little butt out, is that because of that narrow?
And again, and I apologize because we didn't send this to Paul. He didn't hear about this meeting until today. Because initially when I first saw this come through, I didn't really think it was anything about change, the drain and stuff like that. And so when Myron noted it in this letter, we need to get hold of Paul from Rowe today. So he wasn't able to visit the site specifically, and he sees the dotted line as you come around there, like a delivery truck coming around to the staging area for the deliveries. He said that's obvious, okay to make that corner, but he wasn't positive without seeing it or seeing those dotted lines added on there. Is he positive that they can come around there and make it into where that drive is? He's like, I can't say for sure, just looking at the drawing. And that was his concern there. it may not be necessary. If that curb is already there, that bump out is already there,
Just
right?
to speak on that, just because we're on the property now and we're driving it,
Yeah.
I actually think that that would work out a little bit better. I think it'd give the consumer or driver just a little more leniency to actually have that, not having a tight turn right against the building. So it gives them like that little bump out, then to come back in.
Right. His only concern was, again, and that's because he didn't have time to visit the site and look at it, and he said, I don't know, he said, I don't know if you can come around that corner and cut back into that. I looked at it, it seems reasonable to me that you could, but
There's more than enough space.
But isn't that where your garbage can is?
Yeah.
Your dumpster?
Well, the garbage can's more tucked in the corner. It's tucked all the way in the corner.
All the way up to,
Yeah, all the way
Top
up.
left.
Top
On
left.
top left.
I just
And that's on
can't read
wheels.
anything on this plan. I have no idea where the drive-through window is.
Thank
Hey,
you.
my apologies, this plan currently is turned, so north is to the right, or to the right. So north is right.
Will you show
Oh, I
us-
know where north is.
Okay, just making sure.
And I know where the
Would you
driveway
show us where
is.
the south property line is?
It's
This
right
is
here.
south
Let
property.
me turn it to the correct view. So north is now up right here, so the south property line is this line right here.
yes.
Well, this is the property line.
Yeah, that's the Pollyanna Trail.
Yeah, this line right here.
The
is
thick
the property
line is
right
the
here.
property line.
Yeah, this is the property line right here.
So correct me if I'm wrong, there should be engineering standards and what the arc of that turn is around that building. And that's what we don't have, correct?
yeah, and he just said, if they move that, the curb that's there, that's going to be installed to delineate the pickup area, and that, he says, they shorten that curb to get away from the drain structure, that will also help the opening of that, with that he was comfortable.
is that an issue?
Because that's not in there, right?
That's not there yet.
Right.
So that's not,
Yeah, it's there.
well, no, would that be an issue? No, not at all. This was provided by Thurl Feldman, he was the existing engineer, that had planned out this, drawing before Rush Campus acquired the project. So he's the original engineer on this, he's worked closely with, the village, I know he's worked with Joe and everyone here for years now, so, I don't think that'd be an issue, it's not something that's existing. So shortening that little bump out, like I said, me driving it, I kinda think that would help a little bit, but either way.
What's the function of the island exactly?
To differentiate the people coming into the pickup window or escaping.
Yeah, to ensure people understand there's two lanes there, one's for pickup and one's to go around.
Okay, so painted lines aren't adequate, that's why the curb is being proposed? The island, I mean?
We still will have probably painted lines, arrows, directional arrows. Right now, that driveway is an exit. With this plan here, it'll be an entrance. So there will be new directional arrows to help consumers.
Especially if they've already been there before and don't realize the change.
Hang on, let's get back. Are you all set with your explanation, or are you not done? We're getting way off.
I'm also.
Yeah, when he's done, that's why he.
Would you folks come up and introduce yourself, tell us what you'd like to do?
No problem.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Sean Mansour. I'm an attorney and I represent Rush Cannabis. And the purpose of this is to expand on something we already do for our customers, which is called curbside pickup. So the general idea is someone places an online order on the website. We get a ticket, just like you would if you order a pizza. We put the order together, we fulfill it is what we call it. And then we have racks that we stick these orders on with names. And then the people would essentially come into a parking spot, whether it be a curbside sign. They call a number on that sign. They call inside the store, notify us that they're present. We would send a salesperson out there to complete the whole transaction, to bring out the product, to take the money, to give the change. There is a process. They are followed by security. It's something we do in our other stores, and it works out pretty well. We don't have a ton of volume with it. I mean, you might have coincidentally 3 or 4 people at once. That's the most we'll typically see, but usually it's just 1 or 2 people, and it's an in and out type of thing. The whole transaction takes about 3 to 5 minutes. What this does, it expands on that, and it creates even more of a convenience for our customers, and it also creates a safety precaution for our cashiers and our bartenders. Where rather than them going out into the parking lot and being exposed to someone in their vehicle, they come right up to the window at the drive-thru. And again, to reiterate, it's not an order drive-thru. This is, you've already placed your order online, you don't want to come in the store, for whatever reason, whether it's just to be more discreet, whether it's a handicap you have, you don't want to get out of the car. It truly is more of a convenience to the customer more than anything else. And it's exciting. This will be the first of its kind. I don't know of any other dispensary in Oakland County that does this. I think it's going to attract customers. It's not going to make us, super busy overnight by any means, but it's an added benefit to our customers. And it's a really cool thing to have at the dispensary.
Do you know if there's any way that when you fill the order, you could say, you need to pick it up between 9 and 9:10? And the next one has to pick it up between 9:10 and 9, just to keep down on the people who are stacked in your lane?
Sure. I mean, we could create that concept. Typically, what we do is...
The system actually does automatically.
Yeah, it's possible. What we do now, though, just so they understand, is if someone places an order anytime during the day, they have until 9 p.m. to pick it up. If they don't pick it up by 9 p.m., that order is put back on the shelf. You'd have to replace that order the following day. And again, we have a store in Hazel Park, Michigan, that does about 2 to 3 times the volume that this store is doing. And we haven't seen, like I said earlier, more than 3 coincidentally just appear at the same time and call the curbside number and have, the cashier come out. It just typically doesn't happen. It would be nice, the traffic would be nice.
Would you back up to that screen, and if there's 4 cars lined up there to come up to the window, could you just walk us through how that would work?
Can you expand that a little bit more? Make it bigger?
No, sure.
So my brother's here, his name is Anton. I want you to introduce you guys to him. He's the construction guy. He's the guy that's gonna piece this thing together and talk to the engineer, so I'll let you speak on that, Anton, if you can.
I put some things together in my mind of what you described.
My name's Anton, like Sean said, Anton Mansour. Was the project manager on actually building out the whole project from the get-go. So any questions you do have, please state them and I'll do my best to answer them.
He asked you about.
Point out where the car stacking would be, from the driver.
So our pickup window is proposed right, sorry.
Sorry, I'm just trying to do something here, and give you a scale of a vehicle.
Or up?
I think
He's pretty four-minded, so it's got a...
we should be.
I know you just want to touch the screen and pull it.
Yeah.
That was back in high school.
I have the wrong scale. Sorry. I was just trying to give you a graphic of what a normal car would look like. But like on the graphic, you can see it's hard to see, but this is about 19 feet right here. So a car length is about one length of that curb line.
Yep, so that's actually the proposed pickup windows right where this arrow's directing towards. So that's where the first car stacking would begin. After that, second one would be right behind it. I don't think we'd see a third one until we kind of turn that corner. So I think we're only gonna be able to stack 2 cars before we turn that corner, and then so on, we'll stack
You
them
don't
there.
have people creep up.
Sure.
Like I see it in curbsides all the time. I was in Tim Hortons the other day.
Yeah, what I'm saying, I don't think it'll like fully, you won't fully see 3 cars.
So in my simple mind, they're going to call ahead or contact you in some way.
No, they place the order online first.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
The order's already placed.
Yep.
They're there just to pick it up. Is the order paid for?
No, they pay for it then.
Okay, so in the queue or in that stacking, you're gonna have a exchange of payment and item they're buying.
That'll happen right at the pickup window. It'll be an easy transaction as consumer will provide their ID as they're checked in. There's an ID scanner right at that window. ID will be scanned. Once that ID is shown as valid, bud tender will give them their total for their order. They'll receive that money.
So the chance of a person sitting in a car and say, I want item B or C, and
Nope.
no, I want D. Okay, we don't have that.
Nope.
So my question to Mario then is that the bypass lane, is that an ordinance?
The ordinance does require that, but it also states that the planning commission can approve any alternative. In a best case scenario, we would have a bypass lane across the entire length of an ordering lane. However, with the size of lots we have in the village, that's just, not really practical. And not a lot of our drive-throughs have it.
Do we have
Or
any
any.
variance for that?
No, it wouldn't be a variance, it would just be if the planning commission feels as proposed, this configuration is appropriate or meets the factors and it works. Because in this case, there is eventually a bypass. And if they feel that they're stating like 3 or 4 would be the max, then the amount of time someone's waiting before they want to exit and say,
I don't see a bypass issue because of
Neither
the
do I.
way that you're conducting the business. The
Yep.
business is already done. They're just there to pay and pick up.
Quickly pick it
Yeah.
up.
And knowing that information now, it's more, it's more, indicate that the use will operate more efficiently and effectively.
Sure.
And have less probability of having any kind of stacking.
What would prevent someone from getting in the lane thinking that they could pull up to the window in order? I mean, how would you,
How we respond to
Control
the
that.
situation? To pull over into a parking spot, place your order quickly online, come right back in around the line.
well, I'm saying there could be a person who gets in the car lane thinking that they should go all the way up to the window, but they haven't purchased it.
There
Oh,
could be some.
Oh, that's gonna happen toward,
We have to do marketing.
Well,
marketing, in-store knowledge. We send daily updates to our customers via text.
Signage or?
I think signage is the best way. You can just have a sign that
Yeah,
says, call
I
ahead
think
or.
More signage, Joe, I love it,
Traffic
but.
directional signages of a certain size are exempt from the ordinance, if you're less than
Yep.
2 square feet.
Right.
You could have one at the front there that says, pre-order pickup only.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
kind
You
of
know,
what I was getting at.
Yeah.
That's different than the signage related to your buildings.
I know. Gotcha, I was just teasing you.
No, good question. Good question.
So yeah, like near the Church Street entrance, it could be, public, directional signage as you
Yeah.
mentioned.
Pre-order pickup only or something.
Sure.
And just,
Yeah, we'd love that.
For a frame of reference, just also to the distance from the rear, from the southern edge to the property line, to the property line is 145 feet. Within the ordinance, we do require 20 feet per stacking lane, so that's a minimum of 7 cars stacked on the side of the building. And then it does make sense, the distance from this edge to the drive-through window, you could probably fit 2, at least 2, if not 3. So that's why we usually come up with about 9 to 10 vehicles on the private property. So,
I can't imagine more than 3 at a time, 3 or 4.
John, any question?
Yeah, all right, that's it. So thank you. But there is a second one I had.
Of course.
Mario, the bypass lane, can you point it out to me?
right here.
So, I guess I don't understand the purpose of that, because once you're in line, once you get up to that point, is there a reason to bypass?
The only, it's one of those features that is typically done if, for some reason, there's just some type of emergency the person needs to get out of, or they've changed their mind, or it's one of the,
Forgot your wallet.
forgot your wallet, forgot your pre-order. It's not, that's why it's not, a variance is not required to change the configuration. Like I said, it's just more of a modern day convenience, and also in this day and age, try and minimize any kind of contacts between customers.
And how many parking spaces are you losing?
We're only gonna
Just the two?
lose this 2 up, pull up the screen.
So you're not losing the one at the
Which I really didn't want to lose them, and I mean, we could use them still as employee parking, but right there, these 2. Because
Do you still
technically,
meet the parking requirements by losing those 2?
we sure do.
Oh, so these are supposed to be removed? It seems like they could remain.
You got
It
to
could remain that,
You can't turn around and go back north to Church Street, you have to exit through the drive-through.
Right, but those could be employee parking.
yeah.
That's like you said.
Yeah.
Well, aren't you losing the 2 by, don't you have 2 where the window's going in right now? Or no?
They're on the southern edge.
Right.
So you're losing 2 right,
Well, these, in theory, these 2.
Yeah, I think, no, there's 2, there's 2 right here.
Oh, okay.
Yep, these I believe are used as employee
Employee
parking, and then there's a loading dock, which is
Right here.
right over there. Sorry,
so you're losing the top, the 2 where the window's going.
2 of the windows, right against the building, which we still have now 2, I believe 20, now we'll have 26 with 2 handicaps.
That seems like an absurd amount of parking.
It is.
More than enough.
More than enough.
They-
It
they-
meets the standard for a handicap as well.
They used every one of those babies. And you couldn't get through that parking lot.
It's a good day, it's a good day. But the drive through would have been a little smoother.
No, it would never go back.
Yeah, 420 is not a day.
No.
We got, in our
No-
other store, we
no
had
rules
zero-
count on
we had
420.
zero pickups in our other store.
Yeah, it's kind of,
It's one of those days where everyone wants to be involved.
Yeah, it was a Saturday too, it fell on a Saturday, and it was.
that's kind of how, from a planning standpoint, that's how we used to do parking standards based on Christmas Eve. And that's why we had a sea of asphalt parking in front of a lot of stores. That's why those parking standards are no longer done. You don't pave an entire lot just for one day out of the year.
You know, it was, one last question, it was a little hard to see on these documents. No additional lighting,
No additional lighting at all. We have a light pole, that's actually right over here,
Yep.
on this side of the property, and we
And then is
have,
there one at
we
the-
also have,
Right here, is that?
that was never
existing?
installed. No, it wasn't, I
At the
think,
window, are you gonna have a spotlight?
still, that's gonna be part of the building drawings, the
Sure.
architectural drawings that we'll have,
Safety.
because we're gonna need an awning too for, rain purposes, rain,
Well,
sleet,
there should
snow.
only be a camera going
There'll always
straight.
be a camera. There's a camera on every square inch of the property. But there is lighting on the backside of that property as well, wall mounts and the light pole.
if you have a camera now, then you will have seen me drive through there about 3 times today, so. I'm not kidding.
Oh, you're checking it out.
Joey.
If you wanna place an order.
Okay, I think that's all I have.
A couple housekeeping things I just wanted to bring up at this good time. We do have a letter from the fire department, they had no issues. We do have a letter from the village police department, and they did not have any issues. They had already been talked with the applicant in regards to.
I spoke with Chief today.
Yes.
We had a great understanding on how we're gonna go about this. Told him that we're looking to work with the city, have been since we got, broke ground. Great job with Joe as well, the building department, everyone's been great with us. So we're looking to continue that relationship together. But the chief and I have a great understanding on how this whole process is gonna work, and he actually, and then the phone call said, I believe that this is a safer route than traditional curbside that we run in other businesses.
So I am a little concerned about the late letter we got in from Rowe Engineering. They talked about curbing. They talked about stormwater management in that bottom corner. I know that's a very low corner on the east, south side of the property. I know that's an issue. Where do we go with this?
His concern was the drain structure right by that curb. And if they shorten that curb to where they can assure that it won't be over top of that drain structure, then he was fine with that.
If I could speak real quick on that, Joe, I also wouldn't mind if you could speak with the engineer from Rowe about it. We would not mind it by actually eliminating that curb. We see that would be more feasible. I don't know if you guys would rather have that for the differentiated between the pickup and the bypass, but we're open to all ideas when it comes to that.
I'd have to defer to Mario, because I don't know if that curb was required or not. I don't.
Yeah, I don't either, because this was provided by, Daryl Feldman, so I don't know if the city engineer is requiring it, or if he kind of believes that that's necessary.
It's not required, but just from an operational standpoint, I do think it'd be, it helps to define and direct traffic. However, the size doesn't necessarily be that large. If we need to move it, Joe, if this is the correct,
Yeah.
is this the location?
If
that
they shorten it 4 feet or something
Yeah,
like
you're
that.
just shortening it, so.
How about, maybe if we went as far as like, I don't know if you guys seen them at like Chick-fil-A's, their drive-thrus are pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't use
Those
Chick-fil-A.
plastic ballards that are kind
Yeah,
of
like
removable.
safety cones
They're
almost.
safety cones.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard for the guy plowing your lot too. Curbs aren't great either, but.
They're not, so I mean, but we're open to, whatever ideas that we can
I can
come up with.
only, I can only speak to his concerns that Chairman has asked me to hear about that, and his question or his solution to that was if they're willing to shorten that curb to
Sure.
ensure that it's not over top of that drain structure, that eliminates that concern.
From a plan commission standpoint, can we, assume, set aside the engineering concerns, that the plan commission is fine with everything else, can we approve it contingent upon the engineer's approval?
Yes.
And
That should be-
because because they may come up with something else that,
Yes.
I know we're not.
But I think that the idea of a weighted safety cone that's a little like 6 foot high, that you could move at the end of the night,
Because you still get hit for it, Tom, when you're driving through.
Mr. Chair.
I got yes, sir.
Just to follow up on Tom's point, yes. Paul had done a complete review of the site plan, of course, when it came to you last time, so he's familiar with the site, This was just a last minute addition for him, so yeah.
Understand.
Okay.
A couple things I wrote down. there's gonna be no menu boards, there'll be no
No menu
noise
board,
from
no
that.
speaker.
It'll be will you have a slide open window?
It'll be an automatic sliding door based, with sensors. So if car was to pull up and a blood center comes up to the window will open, with sensors. There will be no speakerphone, there will be no lockbox or bulletproof glass, can be very welcoming. Just as if they were doing a curbside order, like Sean said, outside in the vehicle.
Then I guess, from my perspective on this, is that if we meet all the requirements of our consultants and with the fire and the police, I don't really have a problem with this.
Right, I was kind of running into the same thing, that these guys seem kind of on it.
And if I can, just on that point, like, we've made a huge investment in this village. We plan on being here for a very long time and be a good partner with the village. So, I mean, we want to make you guys happy. And we're open to different ideas. Like with kind of gaming this out, we're very open to that. So whatever makes this community happy, we're all gonna be here for a while.
I think that if a motion were to be made, that we need to make sure that we adhere to the row as well as the McKenna letter. Primarily in the row, there might be some changes to that. You're gonna have to work with row engineering in regards to the, if there's new information, because they got this at such a late date.
Okay. We're gonna have to make civil engineering and architectural adjustments, so we'll provide those to Joe at the building department. And
So that takes care of the stormwater management, all the things that we just
Well,
talked
civil and architectural plans will be provided to Joe, and I believe that's all we'll need, plans wise.
Quick question.
Go ahead.
If I may. Mario, so based on all this discussion, assuming, this kids kick to row and they do their thing, do you have any other issues?
Actually, the only issue that I might have, but not the two that I originally indicated, because they've addressed the operation issues. And I believe based on those operation issues, they don't need any kind of contingent approval for the special land use. However, I would like to see, because the photometric plan that we looked at did have the light at the northwest corner of the site up here. So if that could be installed, I think that would be helpful, because that will aid in customers seeing the signage that it is a pickup order only window. So if this light here could be installed, I think that'd be
Would we be okay with,
or some
open-
method of-
open to wall mounted lightage on that side of the building, just due to the property already being completed, construction wise?
Yeah, so.
Trying to do underground electrical is gonna be a massive project.
True. So then, just something, as long as it's fully shielded and directed downwards, it'll be a
Sure.
little something that I think would be helpful.
Great.
And then it could be,
So that'd be the northwest corner of the building then?
Which I believe there is already a wall panel installed there, but I will double check on that, and I'll work with engineering to make sure that there's enough.
might just be about changing out the fixture, because sometimes,
Sure.
even though it's fully shielded, the fixtures can throw over like 35 feet. So
Correct.
I think just changing out the fixture might be all it takes.
Easy fix.
So to answer your question, Mr. Schultz, it would be, the only condition of approval I would suggest would be adjustment to the light levels to ensure visibility of signage and any conditions of the city engineer.
Okay, so light levels of signage, a sign that indicates that online orders only, and row engineering.
Correct.
Alright. I would like to make a motion for approval of the project contingent on a sign that indicates that the drive-throughs for online orders only, that there is lighting for said sign, and contingent on the approval of row engineering.
List McKinnon as well.
And McKenna.
Any input? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Did we get the light on the northwest corner?
Yeah.
Did I hear that? Okay, I'm sorry. I was ready. Thanks.
Can I suggest adding the following language? Specifically, that the engineers are satisfied with the lane delineation curb at the drive-in window? Because if it could be short, it could be short. If they want it long, I want it safe. I want it to not block that drain. I want it to do what it's supposed to do to keep people from running into each other. If you're okay with it, language.
Yeah, do I have to say it all over
No,
again?
you can say I accept that now.
I accept that. You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions you guys have for me? No, I appreciate you guys.
We have a
Thanks.
motion on the floor.
Thanks.
Yeah, no, no.
Appreciate it.
So we have a motion on the floor, it's been supported. A roll call vote, please.
Gosnor,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Helmut,
Yes.
Pilak,
Yeah,
Noel.
Yes,
You guys are good.
motion carried.
You can run out the parking lot now. All right, we'll follow up with you and I'll call.
Thank you.
Bob, let them know the.
Excuse us.
Where we're at.
Thank you for.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Have a great night. Thanks, Joe.
All right.
See you.
Number 9, old business, review the landscaping ordinance draft amendment. Mario?
Apologies, we were working with staff on another issue with regards to some other site revisions and didn't have an opportunity to get to the landscape. So that will be at your next packet.
I have no problem delaying that. Public comment. Joe, where would you like to fit?
Yes, this gentleman was here to make a public comment, and then it's by version of a request of you guys for taking something into consideration for amendment to the ordinance, sign ordinance.
Keep the sign ordinance stuff going.
I did.
Put out a packet for everybody, so.
these aren't all for me.
They're not all for you, no, there should be 7 of them there, so.
Oh,
I'm Kyle Morski, owner of 22 North Washington and the dealership event venue. So one of the things that I wanted to come and have a conversation about would be the sign ordinance for like a size of sign. Right now it states that you can, per 1 lineal foot, you get 1 square footage of sign, up to 30 square feet. For me, I have roughly 57 lineal feet of frontage on M24. So for me, I would like to be, I guess, taking into consideration of maybe reviewing that ordinance to see if we can up it for maybe a case such as mine. Because I would be the only building in downtown Oxford that has that much square footage, I guess, right on M24, other than a corner building. So would like to obviously have a bigger sign on the building, as I think it would be more proportional. If you go to the 1 square footage or 1 lineal foot per square foot, I think that allows for people to have a good proportionate sign for their building. Where if I were to have to adhere to that, it would make kind of look like I'm putting a sticker on the front of my building, where I think a bigger sign would definitely be more appealing. You can see that the font that we use is kind of a throwback to a 1915 font from actually when it was a Packard dealership or a Ford dealership. So we're trying to keep that kind of historical aesthetic as well. So
Sorry, I'm his wife.
that's my wife, Lisa.
I'm up here. Hi, I'm Lisa Morski. I think also too, what my husband is also trying to communicate is we also are the only single owner of a building as well too. So we have the largest storefront, but unlike the other storefronts on 24, we are the only owners, whereas the other large storefronts have multiple owners, which means they would have multiple signs, kind of like the Egg Diner. So that is also why we are looking to increase the sign ordinance, or we're asking to increase it. And additionally too, what we have also discovered was, although the Williams Art Glass is a massive sign right now, what we're looking to do is go back to kind of the original sign, or semi-original, from like the 1950s. It's about the same length as that sign as well too. So we're still kind of going with the trend of it being the historical aspect with the font of the 1950s. I did some research on that to make sure we were including that because we want that vintage historical aspect to go along with the Packard dealership, as well as the length of the sign.
Mr. Chair, may I please?
Sure.
Sir, I informed Kyle, and I never met his wife, Mrs. Morski, when this came up about this, I said, that's the ordinance, that is what it is. If you care to come and, under public comment, make a suggestion that they consider amending the ordinance, you can come do that, and you can provide some examples why you feel that's in interest. But he's not on the agenda, I told him, we don't expect feedback tonight.
Nope.
You can present your case, planning commission can take it in, and then.
That's what I was
That's
asking.
what I want to clarify, they're not here expecting something like that, I've made those expectations clear to them.
Yep.
You can come make your case.
Is it-
When someone says to me, why is it 30 square foot, my answer is, I don't know. Somebody chose that number, I don't know, Mo's been on the planning commission for a long time, somehow along the course of time, they come up with that number.
My question was a direction of point of order. This is information given to us. Is it our body to make the decision whether we allow a larger sign? Or is it?
It would be an amendment to the zoning ordinance. Yeah, Mario has so Mr. Chair, so that's my recollection.
It wouldn't be a
He's asking to
single.
consider changing, amending the ordinance, I guess.
Well, yeah, so just to address the issue, the signage standards are intended to be about the size and scale of the building. However, we do have examples of buildings like this that could be larger. So I would say the preferred alternative would be for the applicant to apply for a special use sign. So the special use sign standards allow for the applicant to submit something that doesn't comply with our standards, and the planning commission can determine if the proposed signage is appropriate. The zoning ordinance has 7 criteria to make sure that that sign is appropriate, from making sure it's safe, doesn't cause any distractions, and also it takes into account aesthetics and proportion of the building. Because they are correct, there are definitely some instances in which certain signage just doesn't go fit with the actual scale and mass of the building. You know, in this particular case, the mass and scale of that particular wall is just very uniform, it's very long, and they are correct. From what off the top of my head and not looking at the rest, it is one of the larger storefronts we have. But that's probably, I wasn't here when we did it, but I get the feeling that's the reason why 35 was chosen. Because for the majority of our buildings, 35 works.
It's 30.
But there are definitely some instances where, 30, excuse me.
So we have an
There are definitely
avenue.
some instances where it doesn't. I would say this is a case where it doesn't, and so if they applied for something, then they could.
He just gave examples of the
Yeah.
30 and know what 57 would look like. for them.
Okay. So, yeah, I definitely think it's something that, could be considered as part of an application, because that's another case where it's a mechanism where they can do it, and honestly, it's a better mechanism than a variance, because a variance has a very high bar, because a variance is about application to break the rules. If we change the ordinances, then that applies to everybody, and we'd have to do this whole study about why it is.
So we have an avenue for them to approach us with a special use.
And I do think it'd be appropriate, but that is correct, sir.
Mr. Chair, so that's why he's here tonight, because I felt the same way with Mario about the variance, that you can't get a variance just because you want to do something different.
So we'll see.
But I didn't take into account the special use sign thing, so that's why this is good venue that you.
Well, thank you for sharing with us.
No problem, at least you got some reading material.
Yeah, you're doing your homework.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you took the time to come to us to tell us what you're thinking before you initiated your formal process. Thank you.
And the example in there of our sign, that is what we're thinking of what it would look like too.
Yeah, so there's a 30 square foot, well, there's actually, I think, a 28, so 27 square foot sign in there, or a 57 square foot sign, so, yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
And
Thanks.
maybe you missed the rain, I don't know.
Yeah.
But now we know what to do also if we want it lit up.
Well, the good thing is that you can do that all in one shot.
Yeah, exactly.
It won't make you come back twice.
Little one-stop shop.
Yeah.
One-stop shop.
As you consider both the front of your building and the signage on the back of your building,
That
to
too.
make it simple and do it.
Yeah, do the back as well. You need.
Yeah, on both sides, for sure.
You're paying for the signs, we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other public comment? I see none. Mario, consultants and administration reports or comments?
Nothing else at this time?
We have some comments that I want to share, Mario and I do, that he doesn't have in front of him, I do, and he knows I'm going to share this with you. of a potential plan coming in front of you, having to do with our master plan, how we label the South Washington Triangle. Yesterday, we got this information. And applicants, if you're all familiar with the South Washington Triangle behind the new car wash, 3.75 acres or something like that. This is what a developer came to me yesterday. Mario and I, he's seen it as well. We talked briefly. It's a different than it's zoned for. It would be a special use request or something along those lines we were talking about. Not necessarily a PUD, but more of a conditional zone possibly. It's would be proposed as owner-occupied townhomes and things like that. And like Mario and I are pretty familiar with this side. We've met with previous applicants. I think Mario, were you here when the RM zoning request came in? Or was that Chris Corey still? That was 2019.
I was at least at one, I was with one of them where
Yes.
they wanted to have like the 50 apartments in the
Yeah,
building.
yes, yeah. So that was a variance rezoning request which got shut down, rightfully so, I believe, to RM zoning. So this is infancy. They came to us, they're looking at a tight timeline with the owner of a 90-day window, so they've got to get an idea if do they have any traction to this type of thing or not. We aren't expecting any discussion or action tonight. We just want to let you know what this is coming.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry, Joe, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
John, just